On the 27th of April, 1965, 3 days into her voyage, the paddleboat steamer Sultana was nearing Mount City. At around 7 o'clock a.m., the ship's boilers suddenly exploded. But how on earth did this happen? Well, we have to go back 2 years before the disaster in 1963, when she was launched. She was likely any other steamboats at the time. Her hull was made of wood, and hardly any metal was used during her construction, since wood was popular at the time. Dubbed as the Titanic of the Mississippi, she was initially owned by Captain Preston Lodwick. The ownership of the vessel was later passed down to Captain James Cass Mason, aka the last person to ever captain this infamous vessel. She was constructed in John Litterbury Boatyard in Cincinnati, Ohio. She was 260 foot long and was crewed by 85 people. Her main propulsion was her paddle wheels, which were 34 feet or 10 meters in diameter. Her capacity maxed out at 376 passengers and cargo. Keep that in mind, by the way. Her route was to St. Louis, Missouri to New Orleans, Louisiana. She was meant to transport passengers, but by the time of her construction, the American Civil War was in full swing, and she was put into troop transport service, transporting Union soldiers up and down the Mississippi. She continued this career for 3 more years until 1865. It was like any regular day when she was preparing to load 2,000 plus Union soldiers. Most of these soldiers were POWs, and I don't even know how they managed to load 2,000 plus Union soldiers on a ship that has a capacity of 376 passengers. Now, there's something you gotta know about Sultana at this point of time. One of the pipes that feed steam into the boilers or water was broken, and the captain at the time, Mason, who doesn't have the best track record by the way, simply hammered a steel plate into the broken pipe as a temporary fix and thought nothing of it. He hoped that this fix will hold until the end of the voyage, when a more permanent fix can be applied. The reason why Mason was so careless about the condition of the vessel he is operating is because of the POWs, since each person who boarded Sultana meant $8, meaning that the 2,000 men who had boarded Sultana, who is hoping to get home, would earn Mason $16,000. If he didn't pick up these ex-prisoners, other captains would profit off it instead. So Captain Mason decided to take on board as many passengers possible. This of course was a very risky move, since one of the pipes that feeds water into the boilers was broken. And as you already know, steamboat boilers at the time tend to explode when there's no water fed into it. Knowing that information, you may know what happened next. As the Sultana head upwards the Mississippi River, she was carrying 5 times the passengers she was supposed to carry. This caused the ship to sag and heave. Captain Mason had concerns about this and asked the passengers to stop moving around the ship, since it was unbalancing the overloaded ship. But in the end, the boat did not overbalance, but explode. This explosion was so powerful that it flung many of the passengers overboard as the Sultana burns in front of them. This fire caused each deck to collapse one after another, from the highest deck to the lowest, trapping many passengers in the ship. The funnels fell over and the ship was quickly swallowed by the waves. Many jumped overboard to save themselves, but many was swept away by the whirlpools or strong currents that was in the Mississippi River. A ship was luckily nearby and spotted the burning wreck of the Sultana ahead. About 30 minutes later, the Bostana finally reached the site of the disaster and quickly pulled passengers out of the water. As morning becomes midday, more and more ships were alerted about the disaster and headed out to search for survivors or bodies. Sadly, as many as 1,000 people perished in the Mississippi, though the death toll is still disputed on how many people actually died. Captain Mason was one of the victims of the disaster. Bodies continued to wash downstream into the nearby towns and cities weeks after the disaster. Many people at the time theorized if the Confederates caused the boiler explosion, but that wasn't the case. As it turns out, our boiler ran out of water, likely the one that had the broken pipe, and exploded, which caused the other boilers to explode as well. All the boilers were poorly maintained and was full of sediment from the Mississippi River and was dangerously underfilled from the start. Soon, two other ships suffered the same fate as the Sultana, but their names were long forgotten. Fire tube boilers, the type of boilers the Sultana was powered off, was banned from the Mississippi, which means any ship that had the engine was not allowed to travel in the Mississippi. Today we remember the people who died on board in a temporary museum in Arkansas. And that was the story of the SS Sultana.